Oh, bloody hell. We've really made it hard for ourselves on this one. That's what she said. You could argue that the biggest problem with WWE's booking strategies over the past, decade or so has been their reliance less on long-running stories and more on isolated OMG moments, tiny little bits of celebrity involvement, shock swerves, or silly surprises that by themselves are fine, but kind of tend to come at the expense of continuity, or workhorse wrestlers who've been busting their hump for months only to find themselves bumped at the last minute for Drax the Destroyer. But that's a grumble for another day. You can't deny that Mania has seen a number of unforgettable moments that kind of echo through the corridors of history or some other grandiose bollocks. I'm in a cheerful mood. Let's get positive with this one. I'm Adam from partsFUNknown. Here are our top 10 WrestleMania moments of all time. Honourable mention, 21-1. See, here's a dilemma with doing a list of greatest moments or most significant moments, because sometimes a significant moment is also like this one, because it's impossible to argue that Chad Patton's hand hitting for the third time with old Grim Tim's shoulders still on the mat was one of the most monumental WrestleMania moments of all time. Unfortunately, the match that preceded it was a load of old pants, breaking The Undertaker's streak, not only his winning streak, but his streak of having the best match at every WrestleMania. And they didn't really follow up on it properly, I suppose. I mean, I guess, with Brock. But it just makes you sad looking back on it now. Honourable mention, things are about to be broken. And the thing that is being broken in this case is Tempest's heart that the Hardys' WrestleMania return didn't make the cut of this list. There aren't very many WrestleMania returns throughout the show's history, but regardless, this one is the best by a North Carolina country mile. I was also there for this momentous return, and thus didn't have to hear Michael Cole sully the moment with his annoying commentary, "Things are about to be broken." Thank you, Michael. Number 10, Hogan slams Andre. Some people may see this moment at number 10 and close the tab immediately, and fair enough to them, you can't please everybody. This is, after all, maybe the most iconic moment in WrestleMania history, one of those quintessential moments in all of WWE folklore, the moment when Grandpa Terry lifted gigantic Andre and body slammed him to the mat. The moment that has been replayed in every WrestleMania video package ever. The moment that comes at the end of, also, one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. And that, dear viewer, is why this moment is down here at merely number 10. Because for as memorable, iconic, and significant as this moment is, boy is this match ever terrible. Just goes to show no matter how bad the performance, all people will remember is the ending. Well, everyone except me. I remember everything. It's a curse. Number 9, will a real Linda please stand up? If this was a list of my favourite moments, this would be number 1 with a bullet. Oh, to be one of the thousands in the crowd there to leap to their feet when Linda McMahon rose from her chair. Of course, you could never tell she was no longer in a comatose state if you merely looked at her face, but hey ho. Vince vs. Shane in its entirety could be turned into a theatre production, and a good one at that. You'd not be able to script a greater ending than the ending we received. It's difficult to imagine that a show that had the biggest main event of the era, the best TLC match ever, and Luke's favourite match ever, would still see McMahon family bollocks be one of the biggest highlights, but there really is nothing to top that pop. She wasn't sedated here today. Oh, it's brilliant. Number 8, Kofi Mania. Every once in a while, WWE would say, fine, we'll do what you want. Humph, and they would end up with one of the most universally beloved moments in their history. It's just funny that we kind of know what we like. One such time was when Kofi Kingston spontaneously caught fire prior to the 2019 Elimination Chamber match and rode that momentum to a WWE title match at WrestleMania 35 against Daniel Bryan. A great match with one of WWE's greatest feel-good endings. 10 years after Kofi had hit his stride and WWE said, no, back to the mid-card with you, Kofi finally became WWE champion. If you want to look at the bright side of things, with the way it all panned out, Kofi got to win the WWE title in front of his kids, only further adding to the sea of positives from this match. You know, before WWE said, no, back to the mid-card with you. But moving on, number 7, the double turn. Many people rightly point out that the double turn executed by Bret Hart and Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13 was largely done in the lead up to the show. And again, they'd be right, but that doesn't make this match a moment any less special. Bret finally embraced being a cranky Canadian, which Tempest tells me is every Canadian's base state, making the unbreakable Steve Austin pass out in the sharpshooter, covered in blood, in one of the most striking visuals in WWE history. There's a lot of debate over whether or not blood is necessary in wrestling, and while not everything needs to be all the way up to Jon Moxley and the bloody fork in the head. Austin pressing up on the mat while blood pours down his face is made all the better by a little bit of the juice. This is maybe the best match in WrestleMania history paired with one of its most perfect moments. Number 6, icon versus icon. You could break this down into so many different micro entities, whether it be the first face-to-face moment or the thunderous pop when Hogan kicks out the rock bottom to Hulk up, or Jim Ross's excellent call of he beat Andre the Giant with that move when Hogan finally hit Dwayne the Dwayneson with the leg drop. This is a WrestleMania moment made up of WrestleMania moments. If you look at Rock and Hogan bell to bell with the sound off, it's fine, but with the sound on and 60,000 Canadian Hogan fans losing their collective minds, it's one of WrestleMania 18's only saving graces. I imagine most of those Hogan fans were also at WrestleMania 6, meaning they got the special distinction of seeing Hogan lose at WrestleMania twice, and who can say that? No one. Take that, Canada. Number 5, Austin sells his soul. Okay, this was a bad decision. We've made that clear in previous lists. Like, so bad that it tanked WWE's popularity to the point that it never fully recovered. That being said, that was after the fact. During the moment, this was the biggest heel turn possible to cap off the biggest main event possible of the best WrestleMania possible. The image of Steve Austin shaking hands with Mr. McMahon would have been impossible to consider 2 years earlier, and yet it happened. Sure, it didn't make much sense to do this in Texas, where Steve Austin could have used a puppy to beat The Rock to death with instead of a chair and still not be booed, but this serves as the symbolic finale of WWE's hottest period. Number 4, I'm sorry, I love you. WrestleMania retirement matches just don't mean as much as they used to back when Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair had a highly emotional send-off of then 59-year-old Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24, and while Flair couldn't quite tear the house down like he used to, he and Shawn were certainly able to put together a spectacular highlight reel. Of course, that would be mostly Shawn hitting 2 of the most self-destructive moonsaults in wrestling history, but look at this snapshot. That is top-notch work. The story of the match was simple and effective, with Shawn clearly being the better man, but hesitating when it came time to pull the trigger and put Flair down. And pulling up on a super kick earlier in the match, Shawn had Flair dead to rights, and as Flair staggered to his feet, eyes full of tears, telling Shawn to do it, Shawn simply said, I'm sorry, I love you, and kicked Flair's head off. This, coupled with the excellent retirement send-off the following night on Raw, makes this probably the greatest wrestling retirement of all time, and Ric Flair never ever wrestled ever again, ever. And then Shawn retired, and he also didn't wrestle. Oh, it's sad. Number 3, the miracle on Bourbon Street. Just as Kofi Mania tapped into the fans' desires to see a long-time underdog babyface finally get their crowning moment at WrestleMania, in 2014 we got the original. This was simply the time that WWE fans drew a line in the sand and said, we're not going to be moved under any circumstances until Daniel Bryan was placed at the top of the WWE mountain with the WWE title in hand at WrestleMania. A lot of petitions had to be signed and many picket lines were marched in order to get him there, but Daniel Bryan was in the main event of WrestleMania 30. It was a great main event, and a great main event with the right winner. Yes, Michael Cole may have made the moment a little less excellent with his incessant yelling on commentary, the Miracle Kid, but only slightly. This is the feel-good WrestleMania ending earned by Daniel Bryan, who deserved it, and earned by fans who stuck behind their guy and did not waver when WWE repeatedly told them they weren't going to get what they wanted. Number 2, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. Any WrestleMania moment that can produce genuine tears from the audience almost certainly earns a spot on this list. Following Macho Man Randy Savage's extremely sports-entertaining nonsense retirement match with the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 7, the match that saw Savage hit 5 top rope elbow drops for a near fall, then get pinned with Warrior's boot on his chest because Warrior got an answer from the Lord or something. It's a great match, trust me. Savage was berated by his longtime heel manager Sensational Sherry, only for the OG Savage manager and real-life wife Miss Elizabeth to make the save. Savage was one of the best heels but most beloved baby faces of his day, and this was the face turn that gave the fans in LA the best moment of WrestleMania 7 by far, and to date one of the most emotionally satisfying moments in WrestleMania history. Look at her tears, look at fans openly weeping at the sight of Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth back together, reunited, and it feels so good. You think this was Luke watching another screening of Tall Girl or something, but no, it's better than that. This is real cinema. And number 1, the heist of the century. How did you get out of a corner that you stupidly put yourself into? Well, by giving the people something that everyone will enjoy. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar was a WrestleMania main event that no one wanted in 2015 and also in 2018. and 2022. But that's beside the point. But when push came to shove and a decision had to be made about whether to end WrestleMania 31 with Roman standing tall or Brock retaining the WWE Championship, WWE chose an option from the secret menu. They closed the best iteration of their climactic show in 12 years with maybe the most creative and well-booked ending in WrestleMania's long history. Just as Roman and Brock exchanged excellent near falls that had everyone in Santa Clara biting, Seth Rollins' music hit, and Seth sprinted to the ring with Money in the Bank briefcase in hand. Never before had someone cashed in at WrestleMania, much less by inserting themselves into the main event and becoming every indie fan's white knight in the process. Seth won the WWE Championship in a perfect ending to a pretty excellent WrestleMania in a moment that is as universally beloved as anything on this list. Everyone likes this, except perhaps Roman Reigns' family. It's up there with the best Money in the Bank cash-ins of all time, one of the best main events in WrestleMania history, and the greatest WrestleMania moment. Fight us. And that's our list. What's your favourite WrestleMania moment? Let us know in the comments. And while we're talking about great WrestleMania stuff, check out last week's list, 10 greatest WrestleMania opening matches ever. Here's a clip of that now. The opening match wasn't exactly a vaunted spot on the card back then. However, especially in the last decade or so, WWE have started putting stonking matchups on our screen straight out the gate, and it's time to give the curtain jerkers their due.